Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Drop with Nancy Jundi, me, your humble host, coming to you from Austin, Texas, and my 19th year here at South by Southwest. Yep, it is my third time covering South by Southwest as a podcaster. Why? Why have I dedicated so much time to it? And why is it the inaugural season of The Drop with Nancy Jundi? Well, South by Southwest has come to mean a lot to me over the years. And while it's not a formal definition, it is my definition of South by Southwest. This is a conference where people come who truly believe that they, one person, can change the world. And so for the people that I've met here, the panels that I enjoy seeing, the people that I want to hear from and applaud and get to meet in real life, who are just so generous with access to the knowledge and wisdom that they have spent years, if not decades, cultivating on how to at least change their own corner of the world. The way that that's available to everyone, I've always said, it feels like I get a master's degree every single time I come here. And it's been a benchmark of how this world is changing, not just for the better or for the worse, but just period, how it's changing, how we can navigate that together. For a conference that welcomes hundreds of thousands of people, it feels incredibly personalized and incredibly intimate. Everybody in that convention center, again, is here because they believe something better is possible. And that's incredibly exciting. So, while The Drop with Nancy Jundi might not always cover South by Southwest, but it probably will, it is a large part of why the show even exists. Gave me some weird permission to think that my experience here and the way that I see the world in large part because of how this conference has shaped me, gave me the idea that some of you who also have the wild belief that one person can change the world might want to see how others have done it. And this is absolutely the playground for just that. And today, on International Women's Day, I am especially proud to be launching The Drop with Nancy Jundi, which is Gang of Women's very first production. So with that, day one here in Austin, we are grateful that Vanessa Davis and I, our associate producer here on The Drop, we checked in to our studio suite at the Hampton Inn & Suites by Hilton, and then walked across the street to pick up our badges. Pro tip, get here on Thursday. It's pretty calm, pretty quiet, easy access to pick up your badge. They're open till 11 o'clock at night. The restaurants are still really calm because they're saying goodbye to the folks of EDU, which is the education track that South by Southwest does. So for those who don't know, South by Southwest is a giant conference. A lot of people think that maybe it's a music festival. Some people think it's a film festival, film and television. They don't quite know what the interactive track is. That is largely innovations, technology, Silicon Valley type things, apps, etc. And then when film and television and interactive is over, that's when music kicks in. During all of this, education, interactive, music, you also have comedy, you have sports, you have education, you have environmental tracks. All of these things are happening at the exact same time. So what I was saying about the way that this conference has truly shaped how I see and process the world, it's because there's no one track that I'm trying to spend my focus on, which absolutely, if somebody wants to do that, it completely makes sense, because if that's your passion, that's where you want to get back, that's where you're invested, go for it. That's great. But the fact that most people with a badge, for example, I have the film and TV badge this year. Other years I've had the platinum badge. Other years I've only had the interactive badge. It gives you access to a lot of these things because they understand that the more that we see each other through the lens of another, the closer that we end up becoming, the better served that a lot of our own passions are amplified by the way that somebody's feeding into them. So sure, film and television go together, even though anybody in film and television can tell you how wildly divided those two tracks are. They're combined often with interactive because the very technology that we're using to tell these stories is constantly changing. There's a conference in Vegas called NAB, the National Association of Broadcasters, or you can go to CNET, or all of these conferences that show off the technology, the software, the hardware, all of these things that go into bringing to you not just a podcast like we're having today on very small handheld cameras, and our third camera is actually an iPhone, and we have a small mixer, things like that, that actually remind you how accessible all of these things are for you to create. It's just, in a lot of ways, having the permission that you give yourself to be able to do things like this. And I'm going to go into that later, because one of the panels that I saw today really reminded me that everything old is new again. Because if I'm right about where we're going, the future looks a lot like 1992 and Linklater and Kevin Smith and Tarantino and all of these filmmakers that had a story to tell figured out a way to do it. And honestly, we were not concerned with what camera they used or the DI process. Those things were amazing, and we're so grateful that we have them now. But at the end of the day, they are all tools used to tell a story. So after we checked in here, our lovely hosts, Hampton Inn and Suites, our studio for The Drop with Nancy Jundi, we made our way over to J Prime Steakhouse. Thank you, folks, for hosting such a wonderful opening night dinner for us. Vanessa actually got to try her very first bone marrow. Look at us being on brand there. Thank you, J Prime. And then we went over to Zanzibar, which is legendary here in Austin for their rooftop bar and their tiki drinks. But actually, even more exciting for us were the people that we got to meet there. Because like I said, education track was just ending. And so we met Lindsay and Marley, who were not only educators, but marine biologists from the Hobie Sound Nature Center in Florida, where they actually use their backgrounds, their education, to go out into the local community to teach them about the natural habitats, the wildlife that they have in their midst, and inspire conservationism through education and knowledge. And really cute, like, I have to admit, I wish there was video of this. You literally saw me go from a possum hater to a newfound fan. I can't wait. We're probably gonna have them on a wrap up. They were flying home to Florida today, but we will probably have them on a Zoom, because it was really, really surprising to see how you could really fall in love with a 25-year-old python and this like 2-year-old possum, which apparently is like old age for these critters. In the wild, they really like age 2 is a big deal for them, but in captivity, because they're eating fresh vegetables and better cared for, they live to the ripe old age of 3. And this little old possum, they were just showing me videos, and I was like, oh, I feel like my dog Artemis, shout out Artemis, she'd be really offended by how I now care about these possums. Like, they did their job, folks. They really did their jobs. And it was really heartening to hear about the EDU track, because I'd never actually inquired about it. I would like to think that the Drop is and will be a valuable resource to not just people in the film and television industry, those looking to get into it, but also those who are curious about how stories change and shape our culture. I myself got into this because I genuinely believe that that's where the American dream came from. Like, how else do you identify with the American story but storytelling? And so to hear about these educators who were coming here to hear from others who were not only, teaching K through 12 or, higher education, but literally their job is to work at this nature center, and then they go into the community, whether it's schools or other community centers, where they can educate about the local environment. It's really cool to hear about them, and also a lot of the programs that were happening here, especially given, I don't know, kind of the state of things right now. Anyway, moving on. Day 2 of South by Southwest, we kicked off by seeing the crowd certainly grow. It's still quite quiet. I would say Saturday is when things really kick off. Not as many people could take the day off of work to get here and make it like a 3-day weekend, because again, Monday quiets down quite a bit, but the activations kicked in, panels kicked off, and the robots. Yeah, there's a lot of robots here right now, folks. I will say I could do without the Love is Blind activation where they just kind of paraded some of the reality stars around. And it's not exactly my thing to watch two people who barely know each other talk about, how, like, yeah, they're married. Okay, that's cool. You know what is for me though? The Criterion Closet. Oh my God. Okay, so we didn't actually get to go in because it's a 2-hour wait for like 10 people. I mean, respect, because that means that they gave you the time and the breadth for you to go in and like, oh my God, it's the Criterion Closet. But also, I will say I feel just as much joy going on the Criterion website and looking at all the things that I can't afford until they have a 50% off sale. But shout out to them for those sales. And also, if you did not know, Barnes & Noble, who also do a 50% off sale once a year. So anyway, those are just some pro tips. Back to South by Southwest pro tips. Again, get here on Thursday. Download the app. Center a lot of what you're going to do at the Austin Convention Center and the Hilton, which is like one thing that's easy to go back and forth with the Skybridge, or center it at the JW Marriott, where they have so many different conferences, like so many different panels in that one building. Another pro tip, bring your own water bottle. They have water stations absolutely everywhere. Stay hydrated, because today was a light day of walking and I racked up 3 miles. So if you're not into Hoka's or barefoot shoes, make sure that you have a comfy pair that you have broken in and you can, you're on your feet for like 8 to 10 hours. So back to the Criterion Closet. We are going to give it another try, but while our hearts were broken and our hopes were dashed, we then realized, oh my God, there's a crowd roaring, because across the street was Blake Lively and Anna Kendrick showing up for the A Simple Favor 2 premiere. So they made another one. We didn't go because here's a theme. I don't like lines, so I'm not going to wait in those, especially not when, this is a good lead-in for one of the panels that we saw, when your movie is going to be on Amazon Prime for free in like 3 days. So we actually made our way to the Thompson Hotel, which was a first for me. I'm pretty much a snob when it comes to this stuff. I build my schedule entirely around how many sessions that I want to see are in the same geographic location. So it's like I'm literally walking back and forth between the convention center and the Hilton, which has a sky bridge connecting the two. But even the convention center in and of itself might be bigger than some small towns. I'm not kidding. It's like 5, 6, 8 city blocks. It's insane. So for me to go to the Thompson Hotel to see a panel, worth it, like totally worth it, because there's some at, the Four Seasons, the JW Marriott, like they're all over. They're at the state capitol. Like literally Austin is overtaken by South by Southwest every single year, and like companies shut down so that their people don't have to deal with the traffic. It spreads out that big, takes over every free space in the city. And so this was one of the first times I've ever really just kind of ventured outside of my comfort zone. I, again, blame our associate producer, Vanessa Davis, for that, because apparently geography doesn't scare her, so good for her. But we caught the state of Hollywood and the future of filmmaking, brought to you by Amazon. So good for them and their magic 8-ball, partnered with the MPA. No irony, folks. Proud of them. While I appreciate the sentiment of what they were saying and intimating, it's not everybody has the kind of money to buy MGM's library. So, like calling Saltburn an indie film is, you had been Rosamund Pike. Fair enough, you are a major player in the future of filmmaking. A juggernaut, they have every right to, call out the fact that they absolutely have a seat at the table in the future of filmmaking. And I appreciate that they are honestly giving a platform to all of the possibilities out there. They're the only ones that are like, here, yes, you can buy anything that is on that platform here on Amazon. They're aggressively customer centric, customer first. I guess where my concern is, like a lot of folks in film and television, is this isn't a customer centric business. You know, that's why, for those that actually remember Blockbusters or Hollywood Videos or your local video store, Family Video, you know, you had the aisles. Like there's documentaries and there's dramas and there's comedies and here's concert films and things like that, because no film was ever meant to make everybody happy. There's no wide net that is supposed to catch all of us. There is a moment where you identify with a certain kind of film. Like for me, you know, I worked at Hollywood Video for a long time, and then I worked at Blockbuster for a long time. Like, thank you for paying some college tuition, guys. I appreciate you. But I always found myself in the suspense category, which wasn't horror, which wasn't thriller, which wasn't drama. Like suspense was very narrowed in. And it was like, oh, wait, did he do it? Oh my gosh. Are we gonna, like, you know, it was a very, what I'm getting at is I didn't want an algorithm serving something to me because it was what I'd like. Because then there were lots of people that also then, you know, made a suspense that ended up making a great rom-com. Like one of the things that blows my mind, not that he's ever going to listen to this or see this, but Martin Brest, he directed Gigli and Meet Joe Black. What? I mean, I understand that there are Meet Joe Black haters out there, and I don't want to talk to you. Like, you and I can't be friends. Sorry. If you didn't like Gigli, yeah, okay, join the club. But Meet Joe Black, that was a really good movie. But what I'm getting at is, like, I mean, you can look at, like, you know, pick any filmmaker. Look at James Mangold. That dude made Kate and Leopold. He didn't just make Walk the Line, okay? Like, shout out to James Mangold. Anyway, moving on, I digress. No one has a crystal ball, but if I were the betting sort, I would say the other panel that I saw today, entertainment business, surviving constant change. That's more where I see us going. Mostly because it's a lot of where we've been. All old things become new again. And frankly, independent film is a well that we're going to go back to again and again and again. Those are the stories that have to come out of us. You find a way. When you have something that is burning into you that much, that you will max out a credit card, spend $27,000, and close a convenience store so that you and your friends can shoot a hockey scene on top of that store, you find a way. And sometimes you win Sundance. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes it's something that you're going to show your friends for the rest of your life. It's something that you're going to talk about at your local community college because you still made a movie. You still did that and figured out how to capture something that, whether it taught you or not, whether it inspired somebody or not, you still did that, which is more than a lot of people end up doing in their lifetimes. And so here at South by Southwest, while we're all figuring out what does AI mean, what is the new model of distribution? Oh my God, what if we actually sell the Paramount lot? What if this, that, or the other? It's a goodbye to Technicolor, maybe. It's a hello to YouTube as the dominant distributor. It's a little bit of the wild, wild west. And while that could be absolutely terrifying, I understand that that could feel absolutely terrifying to a lot of people. And I'm not saying that it's not terrifying to me. I'm saying sometimes that's inspiring because you found yourself back in the aisle of the suspense. It's my genre, and it's part of why we're here, coming to you again, the reluctant podcast host. What? Never in a million years. But I do think that there's a real opportunity for us to come together again. Hopefully, it'll be in a dark room with a bright wall where we get to enjoy a movie together. All of that to say that the entertainment business surviving constant change panel, you had someone from the head of, I think, film and television from Business Insider, the producer of Bathtubs Over Broadway, which if you haven't seen that doc, highly recommend. But it was really interesting to hear them talk about the different ways that they're approaching the future of filmmaking as a business because it's show business. And so one of the things, like with documentaries, for example, I didn't know that there were education rights. So similarly to the ladies that we were talking about, the nature, the sound nature place, like they go out into the community and they teach about, all of the different educational platforms that they have. But people with documentaries can actually retain the educational rights, go into a classroom, show that video, and then talk about how they can, enact what they just saw, whatever impassioned them in their own communities to carry that forward. They can also, talk about the making of, the behind, because there's only X amount of time. So while it might be terrifying, I completely understand that. Sometimes the biggest moments are doing it anyway. Just because you're scared doesn't mean you're not supposed to do it. So if anything, again, why in the world am I doing the drop with Nancy Jundi? Because I think sometimes the best permission you're ever going to get from anybody is the permission you get from yourself. If I can demystify some of the things that go into creating the art that brings us together, whether it's VFX or color, or how did we get the setup together, or how did we stream this, or what are the things that people are talking about, the inspiration that comes out of South by Southwest that gives you the permission to build an app or to start a website, to start your own business, or to go out and start filming the things that interest you, and all of a sudden you have a documentary, whatever it is. All of these things just come from a place of, I have to get that story out. I want to tell my story. I want to tell the story of the people I see every day. I want to share what it's like to live this experience and translate it in the way that maybe you can understand what I'm going through. Those are the things that move me most. And that is part of why we're here at South by Southwest, and this is the inaugural episode and inaugural season, because so many people here believe very much the same thing. And if you're tuning in, I think it's because you do too. And I hope that the drop with Nancy Jundi is something you'll come back to again and again and feel that way every time. With that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. And I can't wait to see you again next time on The Drop.